Welcome back to Still Speak. This is episode 3 of my Summerwells series. If you've missed the first 2 episodes, pause here, go and do that, and come back. It'll be helpful for you to follow along with this episode. For the rest, let's get back to it. In many cases, and definitely in the case of Summerwells, you have a ton of experts or people with law enforcement who weigh in on the case, and I think it's great. And I love listening to all the views and these experts' opinions. The only issue I have with it is that people think that these experts, who may have a YouTube channel, must be right. I mean, they think they're the experts. That's the thinking, right? Like, well, they must be right. And the public elevates these people's opinions as fact. And you can listen to 10 experts and all will say something different. So to take one expert's words as fact is really not wise. Although they're experts, they're humans and they make mistakes. Cops make mistakes, investigators do, we all do. So whether a current investigator or a prior one does not make one superior to another, because they too can get it wrong. And this is why we have people in prison who are innocent. From what I've been observing and listening to from many of the experts that are weighing in on the case, are in my eyes demonstrating exactly how law enforcement get tunnel vision. They set their eyes on one person and things get twisted to fit a narrative or belief or path to who may have done it. Don't kill me for saying that. It's my opinion. Obviously, I'm no expert, and I'm just a mom who is spewing her views, sitting in her car, recording this and sweating, trying to find the best location to do this, and that's all I am. I don't think I'm better than them, and no, I'm not jealous of them, so, let's save the emails telling me that I am. I'm also not going to bash them. There's a difference between sharing my opinion of their content versus bashing or attacking them. There's really no reason to bash them. It's their channel and their info, and I have the right to watch or not, or to agree or not. You have a brain, and you're just as able as them to analyze the information for yourself, and you don't need to rely on just their opinions. And I say this because the channel that I mentioned in the last episode, and I told you to subscribe to, is one of the experts who has a channel and has been heavily weighing in about Summer's case, and specifically about Summer's father. And I want to thank the interview room for that, the interviews he conducted with the people who were close to Summer that were, involved in this case, which would be Candace and Hunter and Don. The interviews were very insightful, that's for sure. And that being said, I can admit I don't actually agree with all the other content on the channel called The Interview Room. And the host has put out a lot so far as his personal analysis, opinion, or theories on the case. And I don't agree with most of what he has put out. And that's okay. I can agree with some things and not with others. And we typically, as people, don't agree with every single view of another. Right? We just don't. And he's not outright said what he thinks happened, but the host most certainly has implied or hinted at what he believes. And I feel much of what he said is a bit of a reach. I'm going to be totally honest. And I'm seeing tunnel vision happening, in my opinion. But please, by all means, listen to his analysis for yourself, come to your own conclusion or opinion, based on what you hear. I'm only saying this now because we're going to be talking a ton about what was said in those interviews that he conducted. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some of the host's analysis videos he did about the interviews he conducted. Again, go like and subscribe. I'm definitely not going to stop you from doing that. So, I'm not a fan of when a case involves a minor, who's not the victim, simply because it's a minor. It becomes sticky. And I and all of us, really need to be mindful that, we're talking about minors, and they're not adults. I wasn't the same person, I'm not the same person I was when I was a teen. Are you? Because I sure as heck not. Teens think differently, and they process differently from us. Even though I don't really like speaking about minors, sometimes it's unavoidable. It is. Like in Summer's case, we gotta talk about Hunter. Hunter's mom did allow him to do a public interview, so she kind of made the choice for him to be up for public discussion, and I'm kind of willing to bet that she didn't realize the amount of scrutiny he would be under when she made that choice, and I hope the public has been behaving themselves and not harassing him or his family. So Hunter met with the host of the interview room, and he gave his version of events. There's always different perspectives, and we have no real way of knowing which is more accurate than another, at least not yet. But we can use, logic, common sense, and our observation and gut feeling to figure out who is more believable. Law enforcement definitely knows which person is more accurate because they all match timelines to the data retrieved from cell phones. But we just don't know. I'm going to go over some of the things that stuck out to me and discuss which parts of the interview that I felt were relevant in my opinion. You hear Hunter during this interview mention that he doesn't pay attention to time, and Candace says the exact same in her interview. This is normal, for this area of Tennessee, it seems, and, Tennessee's got that kind of laid back, just living life with, no real reason to have to pay attention to time kind of vibe. And I mean, if you don't work like Candace, or you don't have school, like, Hunter would have been on summer break in June, then it's even easier not to pay attention to time. Hunter, being a teen, it's understandable as well. So, it's not crazy to think he wouldn't know the times, right? So, but I'm saying it because I found it interesting that they both said it, and I do believe Don has also said it recently. Because he has said, like, I don't remember specific times and stuff because it was a blur. Now, he does work, so he had some timestamps when asked, but, it's still kind of up in the air as to how accurate they are. Hunter was asked why he went the day, that Summer went missing. Obviously, she had been missing at that point, but he was asked why he ended up with them that day. And he said he wanted to go when he heard Summer was going. Now, bear with me here. Don't kill me for this. This is really strange to me. I'm going to explain. But he went on to say he views her like a little sister. Okay, sounds plausible. What's odd to me is Summer's three brothers are closer in age to Hunter than Summer is. The third boy, the eldest, I should say, is 12, almost 13 years old. Very close to Hunter's age. Right? So it would make more sense if he wanted to go if they were going. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me to go because Summer was going. I mean, I personally don't know of a single 15-year-old boy now, or back when I was 15, that would have wanted to give up one of their days on summer break to go hang out with a 5-year-old little girl. I just don't. Maybe, but strikes me as odd. Beyond that, remember I said, there was a smoke shop and a vape shop that were involved that day. Well, a drink called Twisted Tea, which is 5% alcohol, allegedly Candace giving it to him. She has denied this. I honestly don't care if Candace did or did not, because Hunter's own mom didn't seem to care. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's actually quite frequent that Hunter likely drinks or vapes. And who knows what else. I have no idea, right? I just don't care. I mean, if his own mom doesn't care, I shouldn't care. But to add to that, growing up, I knew a lot of friends, friends' moms who, used to let us drink or smoke, and yeah, they would even buy it for us. And, of course we all wanted to go hang out with that friend because the mom would buy us stuff, or the dad, and we were all underage. It happens. I mean, obviously, I shouldn't have been doing that as a teenager, and the parents shouldn't have been doing that, but it is what it is, and that is what happened. So, I think it's possible that the real reason Hunter wanted to go that day was because he knew his chances were likely high that Candace would get him one or several of these items. He even says at some point about Candace giving it to him or offering it to him. He turns to his mother and says, "She does that, doesn't she?" So this is a common occurrence. So Hunter already knows that Candace will give him these things. If she does at all. We don't know that to be a fact because she denies it. Now, she could be denying it because who wants to admit that they were giving up minor, vapes and alcohol? I mean, while her daughter's missing, can you blame her if she lied about that? I mean, again, his mom didn't really seem to care. But anyway. One thing to pay attention to, but don't get too hung up on it, though, is when you listen to an interview, when people start to add unnecessary details or they clarify when clarification's not asked or needed at that moment. Hunter, after saying that Summer was like a little sister to him, the interviewer, Chris, pried a little into that, and Hunter was like, I don't know, I show her attention. I just paused for a reason, because there was a pause. Not as long as that, I think it was like a very brief pause, but there was still a pause. And then he clarified and added, well, not weird attention. This stuck out to me because he said, I show her attention. It didn't even cross my mind to think he meant weird attention. My mind didn't go to weird attention at all. I don't think most people would have taken that as meaning weird attention. So why did he feel the need to add that or to clarify that and say not weird attention when he wasn't asked to? It's odd. It could be nothing, but it's odd enough for me to point out. It was just strange. It was just the way it was done was very odd. Hunter talks about Candace and his mom having a falling out, and we know it was back in somewhere in the fall of 2020, and he went on to say he had not seen them in a while, long enough that he didn't know that Summer had a shaved head. He then said he had not been to the Wells property in over a year, and then went on to say that Summer's not the type of kid to just walk off, which backs up Candace and Don, who say the same thing, adamantly, that she would not have walked off. So that should be noted. I think if the parents were involved, they wouldn't be so adamant about her not walking off, because that would be the perfect thing to say to a police officer, like, oh yeah, she's known for walking off, so that could have happened, yeah, maybe she walked off, but they didn't do that. They've been adamant that she didn't walk off. I mean, I just think that would be a perfect opportunity that if you are guilty, that you would take that and run with it, but hey, who knows. Law enforcement has been known to say in other cases that they don't believe in coincidences. I believe in coincidences, so long as there's not a ton of coincidences in one case, because, that does add up to suspicious. And Chris from the interview room seemed to have that same mindset of there is no coincidences, and this caused him to focus on the fact that Summer went missing. The day that she went missing, Don had taken the Subaru that Candace usually drives instead of his work truck. I don't think, I don't know. Could be, could not be a coincidence. I don't know. I lean more on this is a coincidence. I mean, I don't think it was the first time he's ever taken the Subaru. I just think that, Candace drove it mostly. We know she was with her mom that day and that they used Grandma's candy car, so it's not like Candace needed the Subaru that day anyways. But, and this is going to be hard here, but another weird coincidence is Hunter had not seen Candace and Summer for a while. And yet, the day he happened to be with them is the day she vanished. Now, hear me out, okay? It could be a coincidence, but I think there's a possibility out there, even if it's slight, that it may not be. You listening? When I was a teen, I was young, dumb, and naive. And I was easily pressured amongst other teens that I hung out with, who were, let's say, less than savory. Okay? Teens who really broke a lot of rules and even laws. Half of them, or a quarter of them, have passed away from drug addiction. Now, this was only a small portion of my high school years. Don't think I was like some scummy teenager. This was like in my freshman year, my sophomore year of high school, not my junior and senior year. And I didn't do everything that they did that was bad, but I most certainly felt pressure, and I even did join in on some things, that I knew were wrong. But again, I was a teen. I was young and stupid and dumb. I can say that now. I am 20 years past that point. Or more. But, this is a possibility, in a long list of theories. This is not fact. This is not an accusation by any means at all. Let me make that clear. Not a fact. Not an accusation. Just a possibility. Now I'm going to say it. We know Hunter was dropped off at home. And we know then later, roughly 3 hours or so later, Summer vanished from her home. We know Hunter does not drive. He's only 15. That being said, he does not need to be directly or solely involved. But he could possibly be involved somehow. Maybe, possibly, he got himself wrapped up in a situation involving other people that he may hang out with, running with the wrong people. Got himself maybe in a situation. I don't know. Keyword, may, maybe, possibly. Theory. Keywords. Those are several keywords. This could link to why he wanted to go that day. So he can keep tabs on when they would be back at the house. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm going to leave it out there and let that settle inside of you, and you can just decide what you believe. Chris really had to re-ask questions and reword them and get clarification on some answers. And it was said Hunter has ADHD and is on meds for it, so that could be a factor in addition to, of course, his age. But it seemed to be way more clarifying and rewording and re-asking than I was really expecting to see. So Hunter came across as kind of being all over the place, and I can give you kind of an example. In the same interview, he said 3 different things about Dawn. First, he said he thought the 3 boys were with Dawn that day at work. Then he said he didn't know if Dawn was at work. Then he said when discussing a call from Dawn that Candace got, he says he calls every 2 hours when he's working. So, let's just go with Hunter had, no dang clue where Dawn or the boys were that day. I think that's a safe assumption, because there was just too many answers for that one. So Hunter starts to tell of a phone call that Candace received from Don when they were in Walgreens drive-thru for the pharmacy, and he told this story twice because Chris ended up getting intrigued by it, so he went back to that call. Basically, Hunter said that Candace received a call from Don, and when it was through, he asked her, this is crazy to me, he asked her what Don called about. This blew my mind, because why the hell is a 15-year-old kid, I mean, kids have no boundaries, social boundaries sometimes, but why the hell is this 15-year-old kid asking a 39-year-old woman why her husband's calling? If a kid asked me that, I'd be like, excuse me, you want to mind your own business? I mean, he could have been calling to ask about how the kids are, or how the day was going, or when she would be home. I mean, why would he ask that? It's so strange. And then Hunter then says that Candace said, she answers him, and said that Don said that there's some, creepy man up on their property trying to touch little kids. Or near their property trying to touch little kids. I don't know which little kids. But Hunter said this was suspicious because if Don was not at home, how did he know that? Candace denies this happened. And honestly, this would be another perfect thing that she could have used to explain, what happened to Summer. So, why deny it? She could have been like, oh my God, you know what? There was some creepy dude up on our property earlier today when the cops came. But she didn't. She could have ran with that if this was true. But, let's say if it is true. I mean, Don could have received a text or call from a neighbor. It's 2021. You didn't have to necessarily be home. And a neighbor could have given him a heads up, and then Don calls Candace to let her know, to be careful or to go home soon because the boys were home alone. So, bizarre that he's asking this woman why her husband called, and then, thinking what her answer was, if that was really her answer, because she denies it, and thinking that was suspicious. But, who knows? Again, he's a teenager. Then when Chris went back to this crazy, off-the-wall story, Hunter then describes it again. And he added, and this is just like, what? He added that he was listening in on her phone call to listen for anything suspicious. I want to say that again. He added that he was listening in on Candace's phone call with Don to listen for anything suspicious. What? Okay, let's get into that. And this is a regular, normal day. Out doing errands, you're swimming around, take a little pit stop to the park to go swimming, and none of you had any idea that Summer would later go missing. Why the heck is this teenager listening in on a grown woman's phone call with her husband to see if he can hear anything suspicious? What? Okay. So, Hunter was listening for anything suspicious when there was nothing to be suspicious about at that point. And then, of course, Don just happens to say something suspicious, according to Hunter. Wrap your head around that. Nobody knew at that time, this is, maybe around 11 a.m. Summer didn't go missing until 7 hours later. If this was a regular old day, why was he looking for anything suspicious 7 hours prior? It doesn't make sense. Now, in another case, and I hate to go back there again, but I have to. But the Watts case, there was a girl named Nicole Atkinson. She was Shanann Watts' friend. She's the one who called police, who noticed Shanann missing, etc. She had a son, and at the time he was 16. It was 3 years ago, so he's about 19 years old now. And she had brought her son, Nicholas, with her to Shanann's house. And when cops let them inside, he went in with his mom and Chris Watts. And there's body cam footage, and if you followed the case, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Now, Nicholas also did some odd things during the case and when we found out in discoveries. And one of the things that you cannot argue with me about, because this is fact, is that what he told police happened as far as how they found Shanann's phone in the loft of the upstairs and how it actually happened is not the same. So he told police that he found the phone and that Chris saw that he found the phone and that Chris kind of like stuck his hand out because he wanted the phone, and Nicholas was like, I'm not giving him the phone, so he gave it to the cop. And he was saying this in a way to make it like Chris, wanted the phone because he was going to do something nefarious or bad. So he wanted to be like all tough, and stop Chris from having this phone and give it to the police officer instead. Well, that's not what happened. There's body cam footage. I don't know if this kid didn't know that. I don't know why he lied. Only he knows why. Maybe he didn't intentionally lie. Maybe he was trying to make Chris look worse. I don't know. It's not my place to really say. I wish I had the answer because it was strange once we saw the body cam footage and saw that this is not what happened. What actually did happen was the cop walked into a bedroom. Chris walked into his bedroom. And a few seconds later, while they were in these bedrooms, Nicholas found the phone. And he put it on a ledge by the staircase. Because when the cop walks back out of one of the bedrooms, Chris is walking out of the main bedroom at the same time. And Nicholas never hands that phone to the police officer. Both the cop and Chris and his mother, Nicole, noticed the phone sitting on the ledge. That is what happened. So, you could sit there and say, was this kid kind of trying to play like law enforcement or detective? Was this him viewing it in hindsight, or to come across almost like he was a hero because he kept the phone from Big Bad Chris Watts? I really don't know why. I don't. It could just be a teen thing, like looking cool or smart or whatever. Regardless, it's perplexing and reminds me of Hunter, because now Hunter is saying, and I can't get over this, you have to excuse me, is saying, I was listening in for something suspicious. What? So, is this a hindsight thing? I mean, I don't know. It's just weird, guys. I'm sorry. It's perplexing. I don't understand that part at all. So, there was an accidental quick video taken of Summer on the way home that day. And the way the story goes was that Candace was driving and Summer fell asleep in the back. And she flopped over onto milk jugs they bought at the store before they dropped off Hunter. And Candace says she asked her mom to take a pic of her sleeping because she was sleeping like her daddy with her arm up, and Grandma, this is kind of funny, accidentally took a video instead of a picture. Now, this little video that has now been made into a photo still, oh my gosh, holy moly, caused quite a stir in the beginning of the story. People thought she was dead in the picture. People thought they saw blood on her. People thought her nails were black, which again indicated to them that she was deceased. There were people who even considered that these milk jugs gave her hypothermia and accidentally killed her, and then Grandma and Candace covered up her death. They didn't even consider that the jugs had been in the car in hot weather over a 30-minute drive and would not even be that cold at all. But anyways, I hate these milk jugs. When I see a milk jug now, I think of this picture and the insanity that it caused. It's just crazy. I bring it up because Chris spent so much time on these milk jugs with Hunter. Holy cow. I mean, he was like, where was it? Was it up front? Is it in the back? Was it on your lap? Was it on the floor? Was it in the middle? Who moved it here? Who moved it there? Blah, 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 blah. I mean, who cares? Like, truly, who cares? People do care, but, like, this is not an important detail. It's just not. Unless the milk drowned her. You know, that milk's already been drunk and gone. Long gone. Who cares? Yet, and this is where it bugs me, yet when Hunter was talking about monitoring a grown woman's phone calls and was looking for something suspicious when there was nothing to be suspicious about, it was overlooked. Just, Like, no, Chris originally got interested in when he told the story the first time, and then he asked about the story a second time, but he did not hone in or show any focus on this part, or ask him to explain that further. It was like almost completely overlooked that this kid is literally saying he was suspicious before there was any reason to be suspicious, and yet you're talking about milk jugs and how it got from one side of the car to the other side of the car. 3 hours before she went missing. What? Oh my goodness. Now, I understand that when you're giving an interview, sometimes you get caught up in the moment. It happens. I'm not saying I would have done a better job, but this part of the interview drove me bloody crazy. It just did, because now I'm going to be like constantly thinking about this and saying, why the heck was this kid, suspicious before he needed to be suspicious? And I keep saying it because it's actually really crazy. Now, 2 quick things about Hunter's mom. Her name is Allie. Allie said in her interview that the Wells have a bunch of dogs, like she said 20. Which they do. They have like wild feral dogs who hang out on their property, and no one seems to know how many there actually are. And she claimed that these dogs bark constantly and like crazy when somebody comes on their property, and that they show their teeth and they growl. Yet when Chris went to the home, and he's a complete stranger, the dogs actually were very timid and skittish. And they barked, but not much. And none of them seemed to growl or show teeth or jump up or attack. If anything, they actually seemed scared and when bowing their heads and walking away from him. These are not like family-owned type dogs that sleep in their beds or wear Louis Vuitton sweaters, or even dogs who get fed every day. They're just not. These are random feral dogs. So not, protective of the family or the property, it seems. Which is kind of funny because in the beginning, everyone said if a stranger took her, the dogs would have barked. And somebody would have heard it. And I remember thinking, nah, not necessarily. I've had all types of dogs in my life. At one point, I had a lot of them. And they were all different when it came to barking. My current dog barks at everything. Even the wind or a branch falling. I love him to pieces, but it's nonstop and it drives me nuts. But I can never really rely on him to warn me of something because I've kind of gotten to the point now that I tune him out. I legit, gave up because I was constantly checking what he's barking at. It'd be nothing, and so I just kind of learned to tune him out. If someone came to my house, and without me going and looking more thoroughly, I would have no idea if the dog's barking at a leaf or a killer. And if it's a killer, it's too late because I'm standing in front of the killer. Thanks, dog. So, when people were making these, matter-of-fact statements about the dogs barking, I thought to myself, it's possible that they tune the dogs out, especially if they have so many dogs and they're all constantly barking. But then I got to see how the dogs actually reacted to Chris, and it wasn't much of a reaction at all. At all. And he was a stranger. So, I'm not really sure why Allie said this. Maybe that was her experience. Maybe it was just a made-up lie. Who knows? Lastly, Candace and Allie had some falling out. And it still makes no sense. They've told the story, but, it doesn't really make much sense. But I honestly don't care. I don't care why 2 grown women who at one point were friends and they had an argument and now they're not. I mean, it happens. I don't think it really matters to the story why these two women are no longer friends. But of course, we can assume that there is tension there because of this falling out. And so Allie used her interview as an opportunity to get in a ton of digs against Candace and paint her in a way that she's this terrible, horrible, no good, very bad mother. But what's odd about that is that she allowed her son to go with Candace. I know he's a teen, but I'm not sure I let my kid, who's a teen or not, go with somebody that I, A, don't like, or B, think is a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad person, or mother. You know, that's me. And she did allow him, because the story goes that he asked her and she said yes. So that was really odd. I know, there's a lot of things that are odd. That's going to be my word, odd. That's all I'm going to say about Hunter for now. In the next episode, we're going to discuss Grandma Candy and Don Wells. I'll see you soon.